At Benevity, our design process is really, at the end of the day, it's really all about design thinking. So, understanding the problem we're working in, defining the area we're gonna or how we're gonna solve it, ideating, testing, prototyping, that sort of classic design thinking cycle is at our core is our process. We like to give designers autonomy in terms of the methods they use within that sort of framework, uh, depending on the problems they're solving and the work they need to do at any given time. That's there's a little bit of constraint, but there's also a fair bit of freedom in how our design process works. This is really important and almost one of the pieces that often people don't think about as being important in terms of being a product designer, that collaboration across within your team, across teams and across departments is critical to the success of what you're doing. Again, I mentioned before we sort of some organizations call them triads. We call them quartets because we also want to include product marketing in that group. But that quartet is really important to defining the solution together, and then bringing in the right stakeholders at the right time. There's opportunity for collaboration there. Across teams, if your product touches another product or a system touches another system, how do you work together to build a solution together and get it into market as quickly as possible? So we're big believers in sort of end-to-end ownership and trying to enable teams to do that. So we're structured within our product experience group and product design. We have product design, product content, and design systems within that. I'm the manager of the product design team, and we have 13 product designers ranging from senior to intermediate. It's hard to say what an average day is, but I'd say weekly we have sort of a cadence of work. You're working directly with your product team. As a product designer, you are part of what we call a quartet, which is your product manager, product marketing, and product engineering leads working together, having conversations about the product, working up from that. And then we have some sort of, so there's that cadence of the product team itself, but there's also the cadence of the design team, which on Tuesdays we have a group feedback session. On Fridays we have a bit of a social. Every month we have a all hands. So those are sort of rituals that happen daily. And then really the rest of the time you're focused on, researching or solving a particular problem. At Benevity, we sort of for us, a designer is a full spectrum designer from research, UX, UI, working hands-on with the developers. Um, we have the classic levels that most organizations do: junior, intermediate, senior, staff, principal, in terms of individual contributorship. Typically, when you're at that senior level, you begin to sort of look at, are you interested in people leadership? If you are, we have a lead role, we have a manager role, we have a director role. Again, a lot of people at that point sort of experiment and try it out, see if people leadership is what they want to do, but they are fully able to also be an individual contributor at a very, very high level. I think it's always, as designers, especially today, it's hard to be amazing at every piece of like every. I think of design as a sort of a spectrum of, from research to finished UI, and it's hard to be amazing at all those things. And I think there's always, for every individual, you have individual growth within each of those areas. I work one-on-one with every team member, every product designer, to develop a growth plan for themselves of what they want to get better at. And we start with defining what your vision for yourself 10 years away is, and then work kind of backwards from that, develop a growth plan that aligns really to your goals, but also how we then structure product design and measure it at Benevity. Acts of goodness is our ultimate success metric. With that, some of the things that feed into that is number of people donating to a cause they care about, or the amount of money that they're donating, or the number of volunteer hours they put into something, or whenever we actually deliver money to a cause is considered an act of goodness. Things like that is our ultimate how we measure our success. And it's kind of, as a designer, a really powerful metric to sort of, not many organizations have these sort of like really meaningful metrics to address or to have their products try to impact. And having acts of goodness is pretty cool. We think of our three segments, user segments. So we have clients. So these are large, mid to large enterprise clients. Those people within that organization, typically who are running their giving or corporate purpose programs, are called administrators. That's one of our core users. So they're administrating the program. We also have employees. So these are the employees at these organizations using our platform to give or volunteer their time. And then we also have causes. So our platform enables corporations to raise funds or volunteer towards causes. They are an active member of that, and we collect funds for them to use. We also ask them to generate content for us. So those are our three big core user groups. Ultimately, two of our driving metric, or what our core driving metric is acts of goodness. So we're trying to increase the number of acts of goodness in the world. We have a number of sort of secondary metrics that feed into this acts of goodness. That is our ultimate problem we're trying to solve. Right now, the three big growth areas we see for Benevity right now for the teams to address is increasing participation. So how do we get more employees to participate more? And how do we sort of move? Traditionally, we sold our product to very large enterprises. And now we're trying to move to what we call mid-market, so slightly smaller organizations, still in many cases with thousands of employees. But how do we get those? In that case, it's about those programs running more self-sufficiently rather than a lot of support from us. So growing that mid-market, and then also growing internationally. So traditionally, we sold into a lot of American corporations that had international offices, but now we're looking at what will it take to grow into Australia or into parts of Europe, and understanding how does giving and volunteering happen in Australia? That's very different, and that will impact and change how we develop and build our future products. We're a big Figma shop, so love the collaboration piece, tools there. So we are fully use Figma, integrate our design system into that. So that helps a lot in terms of designers being able to move quickly and solve problems fast. We use for our sort of collaboration boards, we use Lucid Spark, which is really a Miro competitor. We use the Microsoft products in terms of written communication, Box Note, things like that. We are big fans of Slack. We've recently just started using their new video clip feature, which is fantastic for getting quick feedback on your work. So yeah, the classic tools there, nothing unique. We call it Skyline. It's a very important piece of our product. Yeah, we have a team that our Skyline team works within our product experience sort of group, which product design is a part of. So we have two product designers on there currently, and it's sort of, we treat it as its own product that everyone uses across the organization. I think it's that it's the interface design, the solutioning is the easy part. It's making sure that you find the right problems, conducting the research, collaborating, and making sure that you know all the information you need to know to find a good solution. Those are the hard parts. It's the communication, it's the soft skills piece that is one of the harder bits. I put a lot of care into the experience of applying and going through interviews at Benevity. We want to make sure that experience is fantastic for the candidates. We have about 5 sort of gates. So you apply, you present your portfolio, we review that. You then go to a phone screen, so it's about a 30-minute conversation to better understand why you applied, what are you interested in, what interested you in this, and how that sort of general fit is. That typically is with myself or one of our design leads or a recruiter. Uh, Through that gate is a role alignment interview. This is probably the most critical interview of the batch. This is where we look at the job posting we put up and the requirements of that job posting and look at your skills and align those two things together to see if there's a fit from a skills experience perspective. We put a lot of care into the words we put in our job posting, and we want to make sure that you meet those words and those requirements really clearly. Then there's the portfolio review. So this is where you present your work to the fairly large group of the team for about 30 minutes. There's about another half an hour, another 30 minutes of questions and conversation around that. Then we do the team interview, which is you being interviewed by a cross-disciplinary group of people, typically, sometimes, not always, but the team that you could potentially be working on. But in that interview, it's about talking to PMs, engineers, and it's really about how you work and like how you work with other people, that collaboration piece. And then the final step is a leadership interview with usually myself, our director of product experience, particularly sometimes a senior product management person, and that's it. Then the classic sort of offer, and so I think there's a reference check and all that sort of stuff. But those are the big key steps of our interview process. We call it our moonshot. So our moonshot is that Benevity will act as a catalyst to infuse a culture of goodness into the world. We help companies help people be their best selves in their everyday lives by connecting them with a sense of purpose while delivering business and social impact. That is our moonshot. That is ultimately what we are aiming towards. I'd say our work-life balance is very strong. We are a group of people that are distributed across Canada mostly and across the States and even, I guess, the UK. So we're all working in different locations. We do have 3 core offices in Victoria, Calgary, and Toronto. But now with the pandemic, we're all distributed quite widely. So we take care in making sure that, when people are working in their zone, in their work hours, that doesn't bleed into off time, right? So it's okay that you ignore a Slack message. It's okay if you don't respond quickly. We schedule meetings so that everyone can participate. Little simple things like that. We also have on the design team, a simple thing of I call the don't apologize for list. It's okay list, and it's basically like it's okay not to respond instantly. It's okay to question why you've been invited to a meeting. It's okay to ask for an agenda. All of these tiny little things. It's okay not to feel well and take a day off, um, for whatever reason that is, physical or mental. It's those little cultural things that I think has made our team so strong and helps sort of just create a sense of like, okay, this is work time and this is your not work time, and you control that. Benevity invests a lot in our culture. We are a purpose platform, so we want to inject that purpose into our own day to day. We have our goodness catalysts, who are a group of people who, try to get us out to volunteer or get us to care about certain causes. We spend a lot of time sharing emotional things. It's not uncommon to see, executives crying in an all hands, sharing an emotional story or something that's important to them, sharing personal mental health stories. Um, you know, we have a lot of interest groups. We have people who care about, cats and dogs, and we have lots of Slack channels to have those conversations. And then on the design team, again, we have our feedback meetings, we have our social time. A piece that is really always makes me emotional every time it happens is we do recognition and gratitude, where people share with each other on the team what they're grateful for and who they want to thank for something. Maybe someone helped them with something, or they're grateful for some opportunity that they got to have, and sharing that together and having really good open conversations is something I'm particularly proud of on the design team. We recently finished what we call our Be Jedi strategy, which is sort of a larger company-wide strategy around these initiatives of belonging and equality and diversity. Um, we have a lot of conversations about it. I try to influence our hiring practices around it to make sure that we're attracting a diverse selection of candidates, mentorship of individuals who are maybe underrepresented. So trying to tackle that in lots of different areas. We don't dictate work hours. We don't. If you need to, have an afternoon to go to an appointment or do something, that is totally fine. Um, we, have parental leave. We have all sorts of things that just, allow you to sort of be successful in your life and let work happen around that. First, spend a lot of time talking about it and the importance of it. We have a program. We use a service that every employee has access to that actually provides counseling services for individuals. We have an app that we can use to talk to somebody, a professional. So that's one thing. We talk about it. We recognize it. We have a Slack channels around how people are doing and what they're doing around their mental health. um, it's really important, and we talk a lot about it. In general, I'm a big fan of it at a certain level of talking about sort of bans for roles. um, and so anytime I have a personal coffee conversation with somebody, I definitely share it. There's always flexibility within salary, and today especially, in the fall of 2021, salary is very much fluctuating, and so I'm more than ever more reluctant to talk about it, given how up and down it's going, and more than not going up substantially. So it's actually very hard to keep track of what competitive salaries are right now, but we do a really good job and spend a lot of time making sure that um, everyone is being paid equitably and fairly. If I am marketing it often in a Slack community group, I will share those numbers, and I'm a big fan of doing that. We don't, as a policy at Benevity, do that in our job postings online.